Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending the CALPADS regional updates. Welcome to the CALPADS quarterly updates for May. Thank you for being here, and this has been a busy year with the new TK edition and special education redesign. We hope that this will be beneficial for your end-of-year submission experience. And these are the normal bits of information regarding this presentation. Please focus your questions to the contents of the current slides and put them in the Q&A. And this is being recorded. We have materials for this meeting at the CDE Box site with the following link. You do not have to have a Box account in order to download the resources.
The link is also in the chat, Marianne.
Oh, great, thanks. We have some fabulous presenters today, as usual. We have Dominic and Brandy tag teaming the special education information. Sean is giving us all the new information for CALPADS that is coming up soon. And Angela from CSIS will be giving updates in the cohort reports. Liberty is our new director, if you have not already heard this good news. She has a strong background in data. I am the CALPADS administrator, and I have been in my position a little over a year now, and I'm still learning. Paula is here to help us as we continue to move forward. And of course, we have the excellent expertise of CSIS staff in Martha, Rima, Heather, Alex, and Marshall. We did have American Sign Language Services as requested for our Northern California meeting, and that was recorded. Our agenda includes topics to be covered by our special education team, and then we will move on to more general updates. Our special education audience can review the topics that will follow the special education portion and determine how much longer you will want to stay on following the special education topics. We will field questions after each major section, and we try to have time for any additional questions at the end. Please look at the agenda for topics where you might have questions so that you can ask the questions in the Q&A during the time that we are presenting those slides. Now, please take it away, Dominic.
Thank you so much. So special education updates. On the road again, the remaining CALPADS special education Data Spring Roadshows. The last stops on the Spring World Tour are coming up in less than 2 weeks in Ventura County Office of Education on May 20th. And on May 21st, we have the statewide virtual session. There's a new time. The time has been changed from 1:30 to 4 p.m. And I hope if you were not able to join any of the previous sessions that you're able to attend this statewide virtual session. These roadshows cover a lot of topics really in depth, including IEP implementation, monitoring report 1621, preparing for end of year reporting, including deadlines and special education data system monitoring, data submission and error resolution, the end of year report review, looking ahead to Fall 1 2024, and much more. Changes in EOI 4. The EOI 4 submission has been updated for all changes necessary to accommodate the redesign of the special education files, which includes changes to all reports, data discrepancies, and certification data discrepancies. All reports and other end-of-year submissions 1 to 3 that use special education data for a filter or column have been updated to identify students with disabilities based on the redesign. All DDs and CDDs had to be recreated to accommodate the redesign. The descriptions of all the DDs and CDDs, as well as strategies for correcting fatal CDDs, can be found in the CALPADS user manual troubleshooting page at the link shown. End of year 4 report changes. New end-of-year report 16.12 Students with Disabilities Education Plan by Primary Disability is a certification report replacing end-of-year report 16.1. 16.14 Students with Disabilities Planned Student List is a disaggregated supporting report for report 16.12. New report 16.22 Students with Disabilities Special Education Status and Non-Participation Status Report Count, and supporting report 16.23, Students with Disabilities, Special Education Status, and Non-Participation Reason Student List are expected to be available in June. We anticipate 16, 22, and 23 will be in production before the end of June, but note that LEAs and CELPAs will not be able to approve end-of-year 4 submissions until these reports are in production. The Approve button will not be visible even if an LEA has no fatal errors for end-of-year 4. End-of-year 4 reporting for students with disabilities. LEAs must submit the following files for end-of-year 4. Students with disabilities status, special education plan, special education meeting, special education services, and post-secondary status. These files are continually reported by LEAs throughout the year. LEAs must also maintain updated student enrollment and demographic information. Certification data discrepancies. SENR 0606E4 has been disabled due to a mistriggering validation on N470 exits, but this validation will be turned back on. SCNR 0650E4 has been disabled due to over-triggering. There is a fix available, so please continue to monitor the active and fixed known issues page for further updates. Plan 0637E4 has been disabled to address the volume of errors. The proposed resolution is to update all status records created by CDE as part of the SPED file redesign to eligible, not enrolled. However, any status records submitted by LEAs that trigger this error must be corrected by the LEA. CDE is exploring solutions for LEAs to update records in bulk using the file upload function.
Could you please address how they could resolve 606E4 before we turn it back on?
Yes, I'm sorry. You jumped in last meeting and I forgot to carry it forward. Yes, monitoring report 16.21 is an outstanding resource for finding students that are enrolled in your district that have active plans in CALPADS, but you have not submitted a plan record for those students. You can run that report at any time in the accountability monitoring reports section. And when you run it for all of the students, don't filter anything. And any students that show a different CELPA or district are students that have plans reported by other LEAs, but not your own LEA. And so that's a great way to get ahead of SENR 0606 before it's even turned back on.
And I just wanted to also add, really emphasize this, folks. You can avoid seeing any of these errors if you do what Dominic just said, which is utilize 1621 and look for any students with a different CELPA or District of Special Education accountability. That means you haven't adopted a plan. And so if you go ahead and review that report consistently throughout end of year, you will not see 606C4 errors.
Absolutely. Meet 0599 and Meet 0600 are triggering on pending initial evaluation transactions. Pending transactions were missing a key data element identifying the type of meeting that is pending, for example, Part B initial. CDE is meeting with special education data system vendors this week to find solutions. In the meantime, LEAs can always submit pending meeting records using online maintenance. Other special education updates. The new low incidence reports. 2 new operational data store reports in the ODS report menu display counts of students with low incidence disabilities by District of Special Education accountability. Report 16.18, Students with Disabilities, DSEA Low Incidence Student Counts, and Report 16.19, Students with Disabilities, DSEA Low Incidence Student List, which is a disaggregated report that informs Report 16.18. These reports display counts of students who have been reported with any of the following primary or secondary disabilities by District of Special Education accountability. 220, hard of hearing, 230, deafness/hearing impairment, 250, visual impairment, 270, orthopedic impairment, and 300, deaf blindness. Populating student degree of support. Initially, CDE required degree of support to be populated by fall 2024. This new phased approach to determining the degree of support and populating it in the SEDS is to address concerns from the field that there was not sufficient time between now and 2024 Census Day for LEAs to make the degree of support determinations for all students with the designated primary and secondary disabilities. From now until fall 1 of 2025-26, LEAs should be populating the degree of support for students with designated primary and secondary disabilities when a triggering event occurs for a student, such as an initial evaluation, annual plan review, reevaluation, or amendment. This approach provides LEAs more than a year to make the degree of support determinations and populate the data in their special education data systems. Only degree of support 1 will be required. Degree of support 2 is being turned into a filler field in the plan file layout, which means that no data is expected from those fields. LEAs should populate this field from now until fall 2025, when it will be required and used for reporting in CALPASS. Information on how to identify the degree of support can be found in the Student Degree of Support guidance in the meeting materials link. Alternative Pathway Diploma. The Alternative Pathway Diploma is available, but is not expected to be used because students must have entered 9th grade in the 2022-23 school year in order to be eligible, in addition to the other requirements. Comprehensive guidance is being written and discussed and will be released soon. And here's a link to the CDE guidance document as well. Special Education Data Guide. The data submission portion and the data reporting scenarios are complete. The team is meeting this week to discuss and review the documents, and we anticipate publishing the guide in the next 1 to 2 weeks, hopefully in mid-May. I'm going to pause to take a look at the Q&A to see if there's anything I can answer about these topics.
So Dominic, we are getting several questions about the fact that the exit reports are not going to be available until June. And many school district employees, Fed data coordinators, are only 11-month employees. And so they're concerned about not being able to validate that information. So what I would like to suggest is that my team kind of takes a step back and figures out strategies for you to actually validate those information or that information even before those reports come out. And one way might be utilizing the ODS extracts for your SWDS file, but we would have to kind of explore that possibility if you're trying to kind of make sure those data are in good shape for when the reports are released.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandy. And I see a comment from Sue-Ann. You're very welcome. And with that, I will pass this back over to Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Dominic. I'll continue on with our general updates. First of our general updates are going to be our EOY submission deadlines. For the 23-24 end of year submission deadlines, you'll have EOY 1 through 4 submission window, which opened up yesterday, May 7th. The certification deadline is July 26, 2024. LEAs should resolve all fatal errors by July 12th to provide time to review certification reports for accuracy. The LEA approval is needed for EOY 1 through 4, and the SALPA level approval is strongly encouraged for EOYs 3 and 4. The final amendment deadline is August 16th, 2024. Please note, for the 4-year cohort, the data is going to be pulled on August 16th, 2024, and there is that 1-day differentiation of August 15th for all grad information to be submitted. Please also note that there is no deadline extension. And then next, we have for the 24-25 school year for end-of-year submissions. Per Education Code 52064.5, it requires the CDE to post the California dashboard by specific dates. The dates are earlier for each of the next 3 academic years. This will impact the CALPADS end-of-year deadlines, since the majority of the dashboard indicators are based on CALPADS EOY certified data. Your summer graduates will continue to be included in your subsequent years. And then note for the 24-25 EOY submission deadline, it is still being determined to accommodate both the need for earlier EOY submission deadlines and the need to include your summer graduates in the cohort. Additional information will be released as soon as we're able to provide it. Next up, we have your Education Data Collection System, or the EDCS collections. For our EDCS collections, it has been developed to collect the data that are temporarily in nature or which are being evaluated for potential inclusion in CALPADS. For 23-24 data, the following 2 programs will be collected in EDCS, which are ASVAP, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, and the SSCE, the State Seal of Civic Engagement. The submission window for both programs will be May 1st through August 31st. The LEA should refer to upcoming flash information that has these links and extensive instructions to access to EDCS and importing the data for ASVAP and SSCE. Please note, although there's a name change for the ASVAP collection here, the actual processing for it has not changed. You'll continue to do so. And then I'll continue for the next slide. For if other staff other than the CALPADS LEA admin will be importing data to EDCS, the CALPADS administrator should request access for that person by sending an email to educationdatacollection@cde.ca.gov. Please put in the subject line for the request EDCS access. You'll also put in the body of the email the name, the position, the email, and the phone number of the person of which you are requesting access for. I'll pause now for any questions in the Q&A related to the EDCS. Our California State Preschool Programs, or CSPP, data collections. Also in the chat, I am including a link to our PASDAC support program for CD. Please note, for your CSPP, your California State Preschool Programs, this is for LEAs that operate a state preschool programs within their LEAs. If you do not operate a state preschool program, then you may disregard this information. Please note, for our California our state preschool programs, this information is an overview, and additional information is forthcoming and will be provided to you by our early education office. Assembly Bill 22 requires the CDE to collect student staff level preschool data from the LEA operated and subcontracted California state preschool programs. CDE is developing a separate data collection to fulfill this reporting requirement. Data will be reported through a new system called the California Preschool Data Collection, or CAFSTAC. Data will not be reported through CALPADS for this collection. Please do not request SSIDs for non-SWD preschool or infant age students in CALPADS for the purposes of CAFSTAC only. Data reported for SWDs, preschool or infant age students, will continue to be reported through CALPADS. Please refer to the CALPADS code set version 15.2 for the definition of pre-kindergarten and infant. Again, for our CASTAC and CSPP, I just want to caution that additional information is forthcoming. For CASTAC is scheduled to roll out on July 1st, 2024. LEA-operated California state preschool programs that have already been issued a CDS code will soon be displayed in the California School Directory. Current LEAs operating CSPPs will either use the existing or be issued a new CDS code. There is no action needed on part of the LEA. New LEA-operated CSPP sites will need to obtain a CDS code. For that CDS code, please contact the Early Education Division after additional guidance has been released. Please do not use the CDS code application to apply for a CDS code for CSPP purposes only. Again, once the additional guidance is released, if you still have questions, please contact the Early Education Division at castac@cde.ca.gov. I'll go ahead and pause now for questions in the chat regarding the CASTAC.
Sean, I just wanted to add that there is quite a bit of information already on that link you provided in the chat about CAPSTAC. So, you don't have to wait for additional forthcoming information necessarily. You can go to the website and see what's there. There's quite a bit of information there. And again, this is a new collection operated by a different division. We're just bringing it up here because there was a notice recently that went out talking about the need to get CDS codes for state preschool. And we thought there might be some confusion about that. For the most part, y'all don't have to worry about this unless you've been tasked at your LEA to, be involved with CAPSTAC. CAPSTAC, what will happen if we have a student in a state preschool but is pending assessment that we get? Okay, so you should continue to submit to CALPADS your preschool special ed kids, as you always have. Nothing changes there. Once CAPSTAC is up and running, and the rollout, as the slide says, is July 1st, you might need to also submit data to CAPSTAC, but it's different data. So bottom line, nothing changes for you with regards to what you're currently required to submit to CALPADS for the students with disabilities who are in a state preschool. And if you're already getting SSIDs for preschool kids, you may continue to do so, but you don't have to do that. We know that there's certain counties who've been doing this for a long time, getting SSIDs for preschool kids who are in state preschool. So anyway, so you all can keep doing what you've been doing, but nobody new is required to get SSIDs for state preschool due to CAPSTAC, because CAPSTAC will not be collecting the SSID.
Thank you so kindly, Paula. We'll continue on for your LEA reminders for your EOI rollover activities and your summer activities. For Report 5.9, your former foster youth student list, please note that it does not span academic years, and the foster reports will be purged on June 30th, after the weekly foster update to CALPADS on July 1st, 2024. The former foster youth report will be refreshed and will begin with no students. Students will be added as they exit the foster system in the 24-25 academic year. Therefore, to keep your historical records of the former foster youth for the 23-24 academic year, please download your 5.9 as a CSV file or save a copy of the report on or before June 30th. For your direct certification counts during the summer, to reference students who are directly certified in 23-24, please download your DC extracts prior to the June 30th deadline, or prior to June 30th. For students who were directly certified by CALPADS in 2024, before they are refreshed on July 1st. Regarding exits at the end of the academic year, only students with a student exit code of E155, your year end or enrollment exit, or E156, grade 12, continued education, will be the only exits sent over for direct certification matching. Direct certification counts could be significantly lower than expected in the summer months until the subsequent enrollment are submitted to CALPADS. For your students reclassified in the summer, LEAs are encouraged to reclassify students who meet reclassification criteria in 23-24 for your LPAC, for your summative LPAC, before the end of the school year. Doing so enables students to begin the next school year with the new reclassification English Learner Proficient RFEP status. For students who are determined RFEP during the summer, LEAs must continue to follow the guidance in Flash 219, which specifies the RFEP start date that should be used in specific scenarios, so that the RFEP is attributed to the school that reclassified the student. Beginning yesterday, May 7th, for the start of the EOY submission, the guidance in Flash 219 is being enforced as a new input validation. The input validation is SELA 0652, missing enrollment record for RFEP student, which will trigger if an RFEP start date does not overlap an enrollment date. Please note, this is a separate issue from Flash 167, which was about students who are RFEP'd based on prior year 22-23 test scores. Flash 167 was informing LEAs to RFEP these students prior to May 15th, so that those students would not have to take the summative LPAC and would not be counted in the LEA's LPAC participation rate. Continuing on for our summer assessment for the initial LPAC. Students with the initial LPAC and the initial alternate during the summer must have the following data submitted. Students must have an enrollment or SENR record with the student's expected start date. And the expected start date would be the first day of school. A student English language acquisition or SELA record, along with an English language status acquisition code of TBD, and an ELAS start date with the current date. Your primary language should be other than English or American Sign Language for the students to test. Also, your students will need their SIMP record, including their address. If you want the student's address to be printed on the SSR report to facilitate for mailing to parents and guardians. Again, note that the SENR's start date is allowed to be after the SELA start date, only during July 1st and August 31st. So far, we're good, so thank you. Let's move ahead for looking ahead to 24-25. For your 24-25 academic rollover, the rollover will happen in mid-September. An exact date is yet to be determined, but it will be communicated in a forthcoming announcement. Your changes are going to include minimal file format and code change details provided in the next few slides. File format or your field changes. All student-related file types for your local student ID, the maximum field length was being increased from 15 to 20 characters. For your course section file, field 9.27, your CTE course section provider will become a filler field as this is no longer needed. For your student incident file, field 18.17, the removal of interim alternate setting reason code, The name change is moving to unilateral removals to interim alternative setting codes. And then also for your special education plan file, field 23.18, the disability 2 degree of support will become a filler field as this information is no longer needed. Please note for information that is no longer needed or filler fields, please do not submit data for this field for the 24-25 school year. However, if you do submit data, the data will be excluded. For the 24-25, new code changes to existing code names. Language, we have 2 codes that will be either new or updated. ASE will be a new code for American Sign Language, while SGN will be added the word other for other sign languages, as American Sign Language is used as the equivalent to English only. For your disability categories, 220 hard of hearing, HH, is updated from hearing impairment, HI. Also for your disability category, you have 230, where hard of hearing impairment, HI, is being updated to deafness. And then you have your special education non-participation reason codes, which are being added for 27, written revocation, 28, cessation of service without revocation, and 29, no parental consent for initial provision of special education services. Our retire codes for 24-25 will be your special education non-participation reason code 24 with stating withdrawal. That code will be retired as of 6/30/2024, and it will be replaced with 27 and 28, which I discussed on the previous slide. Also for work-based learning type, code 30, the non-registered pre-apprenticeship program. Per Flash 265, we are retiring this code as of June 30th. Some report changes that we have for your Snapshot 1.1 report. We are adding in 2 additional columns to increase data quality for the LEAs. The 2 columns are going to be your prior academic year enrollment, your count difference, and then also your prior academic year enrollments, which are informational only, and then your count difference, which is informational only. These two columns are notated in the yellow on the slide. Second report update for 24-25 is going to be your 1.17 LCFF unduplicated pupil count. We have added in 2 columns here, and again, it is for your data quality. These columns are going to be your prior academic year, your total unduplicated, FRPM, EL, foster youth totals, and then also your count difference. And it will be for the selected academic year or the prior academic year. Again, these columns are highlighted in the yellow on the slide.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Next slide, please. The next 2 slides that I'm going to be presenting only apply to school districts that serve high school students. So we're going to quickly go over a few of the changes that were implemented this year on the adjusted cohort graduation rate reports. First thing we wanted to point out is that the socioeconomically disadvantaged indicator glossary term has been updated. So it includes now both parent guardians if they are provided, and they're both flagged as not a high school graduate, then the student will be counted as socioeconomically disadvantaged. And that's not unique to this cohort report. That's applying to all socioeconomically disadvantaged kids on all the reports. Same with the SPED redesign. They are now using the new SPED file formats, for example, the student with disability status and the plan record. Dominic mentioned we have a new completion status code 102 alternative diploma pathway, and that has been added to the high school diploma outcome status of the cohort reports. And a reminder that that diploma is given to an eligible student with the most significant cognitive disabilities, and only if the student's IEP team has deemed the student eligible to take the state's alternate assessment aligned with alternate academic achievement standards. Still, there we go. That filter is new on that page there. Beginning this year, the new graduate exemption filter, LEAs have to confirm whether or not the graduating high school students completed all the state graduation requirements for a standard high school diploma, but they were exempt from the local graduation requirements. And you are required this year, starting July 2023, to flag that indicator for any student graduating with an EU 230-100 completion combination. Okay, and continuing on with cohort changes, we have 4 new counts and rates to display on that report. The grads meeting UC CSU requirements, grads earning a seal of biliteracy, grads earning the Golden Seal Merit Diploma, and then that new field I just talked about, the graduates with local exemptions. We have seen that UC CSU counts and rates displayed for the 1-year graduates before, but now we have it on the cohort reports as well. And then all 4 of these new categories are grouped under a new heading called regular high school diploma attributes. And all of these changes apply to reports 15.1, 15.2, and the county authorizing 15.1 as well. Okay, this slide, you've seen it before, just a quick reminder to be thoughtful and mindful as you're submitting your service desk tickets to include all relevant information. So before you click that submit button, did you include a job ID? If it's applicable, did you include the SSID? Did you include the error number, etc.? And our typical resources slide for training and CALPADS documentation. And then the ways to get a hold of us, and just a reminder that our favorite way for you to reach out to us is the first one there, the web form, which is available inside of CALPADS under help service request. That is the best way to get us to respond to you the fastest.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Sure.
So for our next regional meeting update, for the 24-25 regional meeting dates are forthcoming and still being determined. We will place this information out as soon as available. Once the meetings are determined, LEAs will be able to register at the same link via the CALPADS webpage. And then now we'll turn it over for any additional questions that are in the Q&A. And I see Meredith and Brandy answering a question. Thank you. On page 16 of the CTE CALPADS User Guide, there is a statement regarding media arts codes retiring in 24-25. Is that effective 7/1/24 or 6/30/25? Dana, if you can go ahead and place a ticket in for us and for the CTE, the user guide. I believe you're talking about the CCI guide from our accountability division, as we don't have a CTE CALPADS user guide. So I just want to make sure which material it is you're referencing, so that way we can connect with those counterparts and get that information summed up. And all of our other questions went away just that quickly. So unless there are any more, we are at our last show for the 4 days. So thank you, Southern California Bee crew. As always, I want to say a sincere thank you to you all for attending, for the invaluable work that you do to support your students, your staff, your families, and the communities of California. And then also a special thank you to our CSIS and CDE counterparts. I graciously say thank you. And Maria has one question. No students that graduated early or 11th grade last year and graduated? I think
that was a follow-up to a question that Paula was getting more information on. She was asking if early grads are supposed to be pulled into the cohort report, and the answer is probably yes, depending on, remember that the cohort is determined by the year the student entered 9th grade. So, for example, if the student was to graduate in 1990, but they graduated a year early, they're still part of the class of 1990, right? So they were the class of 1990, but they graduated in 89. They were still part of that 1990 cohort. So think of it that way. And if you want us to double check, you could put in a ticket with the SSID and we'll walk you through that. Also, a plug for the mapping guides. If you haven't already, go to the user manual and type in search 15.1, and the mapping guide will spell out how a student is grouped into each cohort, each academic year. So if they say they came to California in the 10th grade, so they don't have a 9th grade, they'll tell you what year, what cohort they belong to.
Thank you. And then for Rebecca, you had a question of, will you guys post the survey? There is no survey posted for the CALPADS regionals. Surveys are posted at the end of our CSIS training webinars, but there's not been a survey that's posted for these though, but thank you. You're welcome to submit a ticket though, if you have questions or comments to the support desk, and we'll gladly review it. Naomi, can you clarify how we should handle students who take the initial LPAC over the summer while they have a future dated enrollment in CALPADS? Sorry if I missed this earlier in the presentation. Sure, Naomi, no problem. So for students that are having a future dated enrollment, you'll simply put in that enrollment, and then you will put in the CELA record for them, so that way they can begin testing. Please note that it's only July 1st through August 31st for LPAC testing, initial LPAC testing. And if not, flash 217, 219. Someone remind me of the flash, please. Paula.
Right.
219.
No, 219 is the RFEP one. You're talking about summer grads? I mean, yes. Summer LPAC. Yeah, I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Okay. Sorry, Naomi. I don't recall that one off the top of my head either. If you put in a ticket, though, I'll look up that flash number for you. And then also for Auralia, could you tell us when TK will be added to the 1.7 ODS report? TK information is on 1.17, but for title reporting, we recommend using your 1.1 report, depending on the specifics that you're looking for Title I funding allocations. And so 1.1 will include that drop down that says titles in there, and that's a report that you should be using for title reporting. And that is explained on the CDE website in the titles in the titles office reporting guidelines for that.
And Angela, can you speak to whether or not the ODS 1.17 is going to be updated? I think
so Sean, it's in the Snapshot 1.17, but not the ODS just yet. It is in the backlog, and I don't have that handy. I don't know, Heather, if you're still on, if you're able to.
I think Angela is going to be in the new version of the real-time report, so we're not updating the legacy. So our goal is to move to the real-time soon.
Right, and just by way of background, there's certain ODS reports and legacy that are being transitioned to being off of CALPADS records, which is the new ODS, I guess you'd say, and all of the extracts and all the reports that are moving over will all happen at one time, we hope, by the end of the fiscal year, somewhere around there. Rima would know for sure. But one thing to look forward to is that when this transition happens, the reports will be the same day. You don't have to wait overnight. So that's a positive thing to look for. So probably the answer being the next couple of months.
And they'll be with the same business logic that the snapshot reports have, right? We're updating them all to match. So two things.
Please note that that information is forthcoming. We will disseminate it out to you as soon as possible. So yes, thank you. Maria, should students that graduated with an AB graduation plan be reported the same way as students that graduated with a general education plan? I don't know what an AB is that state standards?
You might want to ask her to clarify, because I was trying to figure out whether or not she was talking about the alternate pathway versus AB 104 is what
Maria, go ahead and say, oh, no, AB, no, AB 104.
So Paula, do you remember what AB 104 is? Because I cannot remember.
I don't either.
I'm assuming these are the students that were only required, they were exempted from meeting local graduation requirements, and they only had to meet the state minimum.
Oh,
so is that the new one? Is AB 104 the new code that we just put in? I'm sorry.
No, AB, no, it's not. Okay, so
it's the old core, the old one that can't be the one we retired.
No,
we'll look it up. We're just not remembering it.
Talking about how do you identify that they were exempted from meeting local graduation requirements? So maybe you should talk about that, like what the fields that they're required to complete. If the student graduated with a high school diploma, they were exempted from local requirements.
Right, and that they just submit the code. How do we monitor that? Is that the question?
No,
she's asking, do they tell us that?
Reported.
How do they report that to us?
Field on the SDNR. It's the local requirements exemption indicator. I can't remember if that's exactly what it's called.
Yeah, I thought Angela touched on that.
That's the new indicator.
Yeah,
right. That's going in. Is it going in this coming year, or did it go in already?
It's in already.
Okay.
So, Maria, if you want to submit a ticket on it, I can go ahead and respond and give you that guidance.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. If we haven't put guidance on it, that we probably should.
Angela kind of touched on it when she was covering
maybe
the cohort.
It would more to flash.
Yes, no problem. Thank you, everyone. And the snapshot frequency, again, we will put that information out in a forthcoming flash once it is available. Again, it's Paula was sharing out some exciting news, however, but that is not there just yet.
I'm sorry, I might have gotten everyone all confused.
It's okay.
That's not having anything to do with the snapshot frequency or the revision processing or the certification reports. We were talking about the operational data store, the ODS reports, which are not the certification reports. Those are the ones that once we transition all of them over, they're going to be updated for all the latest requirements that have gone in, for example, TK, and those reports will then be same day, not having to wait overnight. With regards to the frequency for end of year, I think the question is how frequent will the revisions be?
Right now, some people aren't getting them in a timely manner. And so we are actively looking into that and trying to improve the performance because you should get them more frequently. That's our goal, not just once a day.
And if you were to go to the active and known issues in the footer of CALPADS, it's item number 2 on the defects list.
And for sure, it's a high priority for us to get to the bottom of that. So,
Okay, and so with that, that brings us to all of our questions. Thank you all so much again for your wonderful attendance. We'll see you either at the next regionals or at the Wednesday Q&As or the special ed office hours.
Right. And Sean, actually, someone put a question in the chat, which I thought I'll go ahead and respond to. It has to do with when is the guidance for how to deal with summer grads essentially coming out, because we've been promising that. Yes, we know we owe you all that, and it's we're bugging people to make sure we get that out very, very, very soon. So it's coming, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Thank you so much, Paula. Yes, we are working on it.
And also there's a new one. Could you share info for the SPED office hours info? That's coming in the Q&A.
Yes, give me a second and I will post that link. We had shared it a little bit earlier in the presentation when SPED was presenting, but you need to register for the special education office hours. And I don't know where the question went. Oh, answer, I guess. There we go. I have posted it there. Thank you so kindly. Okay, and so with that, I will like Marcia and thank you, Dominic, for posting in the chat too. I will let Marcia and Marshall and Nisha take it away. All yours, guys. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Great job.